Hi, my name is Allison Churio, and I'm going to be discussing social cognitive learning theory. This assignment is in partial fulfillment of the requirements for the Doctor of Health Science degree at A.T. Still University. The objectives for tonight's lecture are to define social cognitive theory, provide historical background, explain how it can be applied to teaching, and to discuss the limitations of the theory. Understanding how learners process information is important for instructors. Understanding how students learn allows instructors to incorporate new techniques to be able to teach all learning styles. In the last century, there have been many theories and new learning techniques developed. The goal is to help instructors teach students in new and different ways. Social cognitive theory is credited to Albert Bandura. He was a behavioral psychologist who was performing experiments on aggression and aggressive behavior when he observed the principle of modeling. He's most famous for his Bobo doll experiment. So here's a short clip of the Bobo doll experiment. I apologize. So as we can see from the video, without prior knowledge of a Bobo doll or knowing to hit the Bobo doll, seeing the video and then being placed in the room with it, they automatically modeled the adult's behavior. So social cognitive theory has three core concepts: learning by observation, reinforcement, and information processing. So the children in the video observe the model hitting the doll, and then they mimic the behavior. No one stepped in to tell them that this wasn't appropriate behavior. So now it's reinforced in their head that when they see that doll, they process that information, and that doll now equals to hit and punch. So the theory emphasizes that learning mostly occurs in a social context, and what is learned is gained through observation. It has been applied to the understanding of classroom motivation, learning, and achievement. It can be considered the bridge between behaviorist learning theories and cognitive learning theories. There are three basic learning theories that you can see from the picture: behavioral, cognitive, and constructivist. Learning by observation is the first step in the learning process. So how do we apply it in the classroom? Collaborative learning and group work are a good way to use social cognitive theory because it uses modeling. It models the responses and the expectations. Instructors can mimic a behavior. They can show a video with the outcome that's desired and let the students see the behavior. When they're in a group, they can talk about it, discuss it, collaborate, and come to the conclusion. So we also, when you're directing attention, students are engaged. They're more likely to ask questions and have a better understanding of the concepts. We're reinforcing what they already know, taking the information that we're providing, they're processing it with their own experiences, so we're fine-tuning already learned behaviors. And we also, it's an opportunity to teach new behaviors. Its applicability to current educational environments. I'm a librarian, and so one of the things that's hard when you're trying to teach clinical skills is that students really need to visualize it. And so here's an example that I thought would be simple, and something for my own profession. So on the right, you can see an agar plate, an inoculating loop, and then it has the first quadrant streaked. So if you can picture, before I play the video, that you're gonna take the first quadrant and you're gonna streak from the first into the, make a second, and then from the second into the third, so that you are pulling smaller amounts of bacteria out with it, so that you end up with a pure isolates at the end. And here's a short video. So that's a plate that's already has been streaked and incubated overnight, and that's bacteria growth on it. There's an example of another one. So as you can imagine, this technique is not something that, it took me a while to learn it. I had to watch it and then try and do it over and over. So now she's starting with inoculating the first colony. So she's going to take her stat culture and make that first streak across the plate. So showing a video like this to students is a good way to get them to be able to observe what the outcome is that they need to achieve. Just showing that diagram might work for some, but being able to show that video where you actually can see how she's maneuvering the plate and how she's holding her hands is a better teaching style. It allows for visual learners to process it. Um, so it's applicable to current educational environments. After students observe the behavior, have them repeat the process. Students can then try and mimic the behavior. Um, this is the time when an instructor must offer feedback to the student. Instant feedback has been shown to be more beneficial when learning technical skills. When students are, for example, if we use our streaking, um, if they didn't flame the loop in between their quadrants, that would be a good time to immediately break that bad behavior um, and to offer feedback and let them know that that they need to make sure that they flame that loop, and also how they hold the plate. These are all technical skills that are easier learned by doing. So some of the limitations of the theory are that it does not take into account individuality, context, or experience as mediating factors. So basically, Bandura is saying that if you see something, you're going to mimic it and do it. You might respond because you've seen it elsewhere. Um, you might respond because someone told you that's what you're supposed to do, and not necessarily because of the modeling. So it doesn't take into account any of your life experience. It also suggests that students learn best as passive receivers as opposed to being active learners. And from all of the reading this semester from our text, we know that students learn better when they're engaged and active. So that's one limitation of this theory, and that emotions and motivation are not considered important or connected to learning. We also have learned that this isn't true. Many of our theories take into account behavior um, and having behavior modification, offering feedback in order to try and keep students um, engaged and understanding the material. So this is the nature versus nurture argument. Um, are students mimicking the behavior because this is because of the video, they just saw it and they're going to mimic it, or are they doing it because they've previously had exposure to that doll and knew what to do? Does a student repeat the behavior because it's witnessed or because they have prior experience? Modeling behavior is passive learning, and this, along with other techniques, can be applied to make students more active learners. An example would be to model a flipped classroom and then have students use the model. So this is just for fun. How many times does the white team pass the ball?
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make? The answer is 13. But did you see them walking there?
So that video shows that we want our students to model behavior, but we need to make sure that we're not steering them on such a narrow path that they're only focused on the current objective and that they aren't going to ask more questions or be more observant of their surroundings. So I think that's another limitation of the theory. Social cognitive theory was the first behavioral theory to move from psychology to the classroom. The theory is still relevant today and can be used to understand the learning process. Teachers can learn to better control their classrooms using instant feedback to reinforce good behaviors. Remember that your students are always watching, so lead by example. Thank you.